This is Gardy with Clear Life Media, Clear Life Combat. I have a guest that's zooming in. We're going to get him introduced and find out everything that he has going on. Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. You're doing good. Doing good.
If someone hasn't met you before, what's your name? And then we're going to learn about this fight coming up.
Okay, perfect. So my name's Kendon Kayser. I'm from Louisiana. I'm a 2-0 pro MMA fighter. I've wrestled my whole life. Wrestled in college, did that whole venture. Now I live back in Louisiana. I train. I'm the head coach of my own youth wrestling club, Valhalla Wrestling Club. So kind of live this combat sports life every day, all day.
Yeah, so Fury, I think it's 106 in New Orleans. You're going to be on the card versus Damian Aronde. If someone hasn't seen you fight in the cage yet, what can they expect whenever you're in there?
Man, I go out there and I push the pace. I try to make as much things happen as possible, try to not be stagnant, and go wherever the fight takes me. I'm really good at wrestling. My striking is, it's getting pretty well rounded. So really wherever the fight goes, I'm expected to go there and, do what I do.
What do you think about Fury coming to New Orleans? How exciting is that?
Dude, it's awesome. I love it. It's super cool that, we got Fury coming down here. They're a really big promotion, very big on the regional and even national scene. So that's super cool. Actually, right before they came down, I was talking to one of my buddies that I fight with, and I was like, hey, man, like, I want to bring Fury here within the next year. Like, it was actually a goal of mine. Like, I want to talk those guys into coming out here because I know I can sell tickets. Like, I sell elite, a good amount of tickets for every fight. So I was like, man, I want to bring them to New Orleans and I want to get, about me and a lot of my whole team on this card. And then at like a week later, Coach Tex is like, hey, Fury's coming to town. I'm like, dude, this is perfect.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to say it, put it out there, and then it gets like manifested. I think, you being a collegiate wrestler, I've talked to a lot of wrestlers, and there's like always these goals, just in the
hmm
order, always working towards something. Is that something that you've done to get to this point in your career?
Oh, for sure, dude. So, one kind of thing that I like about me is I've always known what I wanted to do since I was 10 years old, right? I fell in love with wrestling when I was around 9, and then I fell in love with the UFC when I was around 10 years old. So I always knew like my plan was I wanted to go wrestle in college, be very successful, then come back and try to be a world champ fighter while changing the culture of Louisiana wrestling. And I'm ticking those boxes. So I literally have since I started fighting 4 years ago, I had a goal of, short-term goals and long-term goals. And then at the end of every year, yeah, and sometime at the first week or two of January, I reevaluate my short-term goals, right? Like, okay, well, I accomplished all these. I didn't accomplish this. So I have a very laid out roadmap of what I want to do and where I want to be.
Yeah, where do you see your professional career going? You're 2-0 right now. This next fight for Fury, what's the main goal?
Yeah, so we signed a 3-fight deal with Fury for this one. So we're gonna do 3 fights with them, and we have a 12-month period to get those fights done. But after that, the plan is to roll into the UFC and start taking the sport by storm. That's my goal.
Where are you from originally, and where do you live now?
So I was born in Bruley, Louisiana, or I wasn't. I was born in Missouri, but moved to Louisiana when I was very young. So raised in Louisiana. I'm from a small town called Addis. It's right across the river from Baton Rouge. For the people listening, if you know where that is. And then I moved away when I was in high school to Oklahoma to go pursue my wrestling goals. And I wrestled at a JUCO called NEO, and then I wrestled at a NAIA called Grandview, and then I moved back down, and now I live in New Orleans.
You mentioned Baton Rouge. Man, I spent a little bit of time out there in Louisiana. I loved Baton Rouge. It was a really cool city, kind of like a college town, I guess. But there was always stuff going on. Did you have a good experience, at least growing up over there?
Oh, dude, I loved it. It was so cool. So where I grew up, it was really neat because we were right across the river from Baton Rouge. So you had like the city living, and it was only a 10-minute drive. But back on our side, like I got kind of the small town, country boy a little
Yeah.
bit, right? So grew up having the best of both worlds. Anytime you wanted the city boy experience, you drove 10 minutes. But then also in my hometown, whenever I wanted to get around, I would jump on my dirt bike and ride down the main highway. So you got the best of both worlds, and I loved that place. I still love it to this day. My parents live there. A bunch of my buddies live there. I go back there all the time.
Let's talk about your fight and your opponent, Damian Aronde. He's fought for Fury multiple times before. Jiu-jitsu black belt. That's his base. Jiu-jitsu. What do you know about him, and what do you think about how the fight's gonna go?
Yeah, so I've watched a bunch of his fights, the stuff I could find on YouTube, and like you said, he's real heavy jujitsu guy. He's not gonna come in there and try to piece me up on my feet. I don't think. And he's going to come in there and strike, and he's going to try to force a wrestling exchange to get a takedown. So I really think that a big goal of his is going to be able to get this fight to the ground. And I don't really know if that, even if it does go there, I don't think it plays out in his favor anyway. I roll with a lot of high level dudes all the time, and I have a lot of success. He may be a black belt, but I've been grappling for 20 years now, so it's not really anything that I haven't seen. But I kind of plan to fight my fight. Whatever he tries to do, I'm not too worried about his grappling exchanges. I think that without sounding like a total arrogant asshole, like it doesn't go down if I don't want it to go down, barring the fact that he drops me, and that ain't gonna happen. So I think that he's definitely the best guy I fought so far, but I also think that I'm hands down the best guy he's fought. So I'm excited to go out there and show that there's levels to this shit and that he isn't all mine.
Are you planning on keeping it on the feet? I know you say, hey, it doesn't go down unless I, want the fight to go there. But ideally, how do you see that fighter? Any of your game plan that you would like to share? Do you want to show off your striking?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to actually. My boxing coach, he's actually like been like another father figure to me. I've known him since I was 8 years old, and we've been coming up together. And every time, the past like couple months, every time we go and work out, he's like, "You ever gonna show people that you can strike? Or you're just gonna keep taking them down and wrestling them?" And I'm like, "Man, they keep grabbing me, and when they grab me, it goes there." But as far as this fight goes, man, like if it goes down there, I'm not. I'm not too concerned about it. He has really good guard stuff. I'm not gonna lie. He has good stuff from his back. But a lot of that to me is discipline. And if there's one thing that I'm good at is being disciplined. I feel like that's something I've always been good at. So if it goes down there, then I'm not too worried about it. But for sure, I would like to showcase a little bit of my striking skills.
You know, Damien, his brother and his brother-in-law were recently on that UFC BJJ show. Did you have a chance to watch any of that? And what do you think about the UFC getting into jiu-jitsu?
Dude, yeah, I've watched a little bit of it. I haven't watched like the full episodes or anything, but I've watched some, match highlights. I watched his brother's match highlights. I didn't watch the whole thing, but dude, I think it's sick. I think it's awesome. And I love the more that UFC gets into this stuff selfishly because, once they get their jujitsu figured out, the next thing they bleed into is wrestling.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I love that. I think the more eyes we get on wrestling, the more money we could get, the better it's going to be because wrestling one of those sports where there's only glory in it. There ain't no money, there's no fame. Like you do that because you love it. So I think that UFC getting into jujitsu is beautiful because I think the next path down the road is wrestling, which I'm all about.
Yeah, I've seen the graphics, and I don't even know because I haven't researched it enough to know if it's real or not. But Bo Nickel and this wrestling league, and like he's committed to do it. I'm like, well, if the UFC is letting him do it, they're not planning to get into that space right now. Have you seen any of that? And do you know if that stuff is real?
Yeah, so there's a lot of it been going around. One of my buddies who wrestled at Ohio State and actually coaches down at he runs his own club out of Baton Rouge called BRTC. He's like one of the general managers of the team, right? So they're putting together these kind of leagues. So from what I understand, it's 100% legit, and I think it'll be cool. I love stuff like that. It
Yeah.
gives especially these guys that aren't really going for the Olympic level but aren't fighting, like it still gives them a chance to compete, which I think is super cool and good for the sport as well, because a lot of times when you're done with college and if you're not trying to make an Olympic or world team, it's done, which kind of sucks.
You mentioned, I believe you mentioned earlier that you're coaching a club.
Hmm.
What's the name of that club, and what kind of talent you got, and what's it like being a coach?
So it's called Valhalla Wrestling Club, playing off, my nickname's Kendon the Viking Kaiser, right? So playing off that whole shtick. Dude, I love it though, man. It's one of the two passions of my life, right? Fighting and coaching are my passions. I love it. I got some young guys that are really, really good. Louisiana is kind of the worst state, one of the worst states in the country for wrestling. So when I moved back, I wanted to change that, and I'm doing it. I got about 30 kids in my club right now. We're pretty small, but I want it to be that way, right? The less people I have, the more I can put my hands on them, and the better the product's going to be, right? The more kids I have in there, the more the product diminishes. So I have a small group, but I got some kids that are hammers and that are young, right? So my main goal is to coach the ones that are 8, 10, 12 up until they're 18. Because when you start with high schoolers, like it's kind of really hard to make an immediate impact in their future. But when you start young, you can really start to cultivate that culture of what it takes to be a good person and be a good athlete and be a high performer. So that's kind of where I'm at.
why is it that wrestling is one of the, in Louisiana, one of those states, I guess, where you said it's one of the worst states for that? Is that just because that's how it's laid out, or transportation? It's just not offered at a young age? Why is that, you think?
So there's a few different main causes, right? So one of them, we'll just talk geographically, right? We're in the South. We're in Louisiana. South sports in the South are baseball, football, and basketball states. That's just kind of the way it is. It's always has been that way. So that is one obstacle that you have to deal with, and wrestling is kind of it's not really a 12-month sport, but it can very easily be a 12-month sport if you want it to. So
Mm-hmm.
you're competing against all of the biggest sports, which are a part of the culture down here. So that's a really big part. And then there's another part to where in most other states in the country, high school sports are dominated by public schools. Well, Louisiana is very different. All the sports are dominated by private school down here. So you have a culture to where like you don't want your kids to cross train because they're a private school and then get recruited to go train with this other school, and then there's no club wrestling, and there's a lot of very big infrastructure problems, right? So the way everything is set up down here, kind of we shoot ourselves in the foot a lot. So that's one big thing, and then just geographically, man, like people don't love to wrestle down south; they love to be outside.
Yeah, sometimes even driving through, I-10, it's a straight shot. We have an event coming up in a couple months, and I think it's Lake Charles, and I'm like, man, it's only like 2 hours away from us. It's a straight shot, so I'm excited to get down there. But then I think about I-10. Sometimes, like getting down the I-10, there's parts of the road where it's just like there's no lights. Like, are we safe? Like, are we on the road? Is this still I-10? But it's a
Yeah,
straight shot.
they got some sketchy parts down there for sure.
Yeah, but I do enjoy that it's super close, so we can get there quick. Talk to me about your nickname. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so the JUCO I went to was called NEO Norseman, right? And we were really good. Won a national title my freshman year. Got second in country my second. I got third and second as an individual, but we were the Norsemen, right? So NEO Norseman, it's a Viking. And then after my 2 years in JUCO, I transferred to a school called Grandview, and Grandview is one of the most historic programs ever. They've won 13 national titles in the past 14 years, and they were called the Vikings. And I've always, like, too, since I was a little kid, been very fascinated with medieval history and like warriors of like the Dark Ages times, and Vikings were always one of my favorite. So like first college I go to is the Norsemen, and then second college I go to is the Vikings, and it's kind of like, all right, well, it's kind of written in the stars at this point, right? Like I'm a Viking, and I embraced it. I embraced the mindset of I'm gonna go raid your village, and there's not a goddamn thing you're gonna do to be able to stop me. So that's kind of where I got all that from. So to me, it has a lot of meaning and it has a lot of importance to me. It's not just a nickname. It kind of represents where I've came from and the journey I've been on so far.
Awesome. And you're taking that mentality, that same idea into the cage in the Fury 106.
100%. Yep. Go out there for victory or Valhalla. That's what I like to say, right? I'm gonna win or I'm gonna die trying. And Valhalla is where a Viking warrior goes whenever they die. And basically, what it is it's heaven. And every day you wake up and you battle all the warriors that have died in battle. You battle all day, you kill each other, and then when you wake up in the hall of the gods, and you wake up and you dine and you drink with all of your gods, and then you go to sleep and you wake up and you go to battle again. So it's literally a warrior's paradise. So like that's kind of where all that comes from.
They get to do what they love every day. Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
Hey, can you remind everybody one more time, what do you got going on, and how can they, watch? How can they get tickets if they need to from you?
Yeah, so like we've been saying, Fury 106 going to be live in New Orleans this Friday, July 18th at the Hilario Center on the West Bank. Damn near sold out house, man, right? It's going to be a really good show. Come out, watch me take the next step on my journey towards pursuing that UFC goal. If you need tickets, you can go online to Fury. I think it's fc.tv. You go, you buy, you click on the link, you buy those tickets. If you want to come support me, click my name. If you're coming for anybody else, click anybody else. Or if you have my number personally or my Instagram, I have a few personal tickets that I could still give out, and they're a little bit cheaper. So if that's something you want to get at, just get at me. And then, yeah, man, it's going to be a fun night. Going to be a really good night of fights.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Man, just catch me on my way, right? Like I think it's gonna be a very, very fun journey. Hop on the bandwagon early. Don't be one of those guys that once I knock out my first UFC top 10 guy, you're like, oh, this guy's the real deal, right? Like hop on early, be a part of the train, and let's take this journey together, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much for making time today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm sure I'll see you guys Friday.
Yes. Yeah, we'll have, I won't be out there, but we'll have Kurt. He'll be out there. He's one of our guys from Clear Life. So.
Awesome.
This is Gardy with Clear Life Media, Clear Life Combat. Y'all be blessed.